pastor was Eddie Long.
Good morning.
At the time, one of the most powerful black preachers in America.
Your life is about to change.
5 years ago, he introduced his megachurch to this man.
Put your hands together and receive my friend, my brother, the great Ephren Taylor.
And lives did change. Ephren Taylor was a self-proclaimed millionaire only in his 20s and a preacher's son who spoke the language of the church. To these families, he was a financial whiz kid.
We're going to show you how to get wealth and use it for the building of his kingdom.
It was all part of what he called his wealth tour, sermons about self-improvement and financial pitches later in private. Security officials now say these families were victims of a Ponzi scheme that reached into churches across the country, from Eddie Long's in Atlanta to Joel Osteen's in Houston. Officials say he owes millions to investors in several states. He preached self-improvement and shared stories of his success as a young black man on shows like Montel Williams.
So I went on to high school, ended up creating my own internet company, raised $750,000 in high school.
Even here on ABC.
So where do you see yourself in 10 years?
10 years from now, probably a minister at somebody's congregation.
And when he spoke to churchgoers, his words resonated.
You are here in God's house on this morning.
He sounded like a godly person to you.
He did. I mean, he's quoted scriptures.
Lillian Wells says she met privately with Taylor after hearing him speak at church that morning in Atlanta. She says Taylor sold her on his socially conscious investment that she'd be giving back to her community.
And I was promised to get a 20% return on my money.
So in December of 2009, she gave Taylor $122,000, everything she had, out of her retirement account. She told us he gave her these papers. He claimed they showed he invested her money in a real estate venture that turned around homes in inner cities. But then, she says, he disappeared.
I couldn't get a hold of anybody, so then I started calling the 800 numbers, so just can't get them.
This is your retirement.
Yes.
And it's gone.
Yes. Yes. It's gone. Bad, isn't it?
You're blessed, prosperous, victorious.
In Houston, Texas, at the megachurch of Pastor Joel Osteen, the flock was introduced to Taylor when, according to the church, he was invited to speak to a small classroom group about biblical financial principles.
That was where the kiosk came out of.
Gary and Anita Dorio were there and later invested $1.3 million, their life savings and her mother's retirement. The Dorios thought they were investing in an inner-city laundromat, a juice bar, and a gas station.
Were you spending money on things that existed or that were imaginary?
Some existed and some didn't.
Attorney Kathy Lerman says hundreds of investors have told her the same story.
I cannot tell you how many people have said to me, I thought I was the only one.
One thing Taylor was apparently investing in was his wife Michelle's music career. In 2009, on this sneak peek of her album, Taylor credits himself as executive producer and hot male model. We tell him to stick to his day job, but we're not sure what that is. Maybe you know this one.
I'm sexy, I'm perfection, I'm that hotness, pay attention.
The government said Taylor paid for the studio time for his wife's music career with the money that came pouring in. And there he is again, making a cameo. All together now.
I move like a billionaire, and I don't care, and I don't care, and I don't care.
Want more? The complete version is available on iTunes. In August of 2011, we started looking for Taylor, first at the headquarters he'd listed for his businesses. The address led to a post office box inside this mail store.
He's a thief.
Lisa Conway worked for Taylor in 2010. She sold yet another investment his company was pitching.
I would see things that weren't appropriate.
Like?
I had caught them trying to manipulate paperwork.
It sounds like you don't believe any of this stuff existed.
Because I know so much. We had folks that came.
Soon, she says, panicked families were banging down the doors of this office where she and Taylor worked.
There's got to be fear on his part that this is all coming down.
Yeah. You could see him sweat.
Come.
Back in Texas, the Dorios still hold on to their faith, but they've left Lakewood Church where they first met Taylor. The church told us when Ephren tried to promote his services as a financial advisor, they stopped him, and that they did a search before he spoke and didn't find anything negative.
A staff member did make the announcement, we're not endorsing this person, we're not telling you to invest with him. Also, too, you would expect that anyone that comes to the church, they would have researched him.
And she says when she told the church what happened,
it was at first, oh, Anita, how could you? Like,
How many of you want to get paid this morning? Somebody raise their hand, give God a praise if you want to get paid this morning.
hey, Mr. Taylor, over here, Lillian Wells would like to get paid. But she says that even after asking the church for help, she's left with nothing.
What's the first thing the bishop said to you all?
Well, he came in and he said, basically, church ain't got no money.
Lillian no longer attends Bishop Long's church, and she says she was forced to file for bankruptcy last September.
My name is Ephren Taylor. I'll see you guys the rest of this weekend.
Her minister, Eddie Long, claimed that he and his church did nothing wrong. In 2011, Long released this video pleading with Taylor to return the money.
Please do what's right.
The church told us they do continue to hope the responsible parties will restore the funds they took from congregants at New Birth and churches around the country. Even people who have known Taylor since these days, back when he was just starting out, say they don't know where he or most of the money has gone.
We were young, ambitious guys, and I liked that about him.
Christopher says he met Taylor when they were both 19 and they briefly sold vending machines together. He claims he even invested $26,000 of his own money with Taylor. But what bothers Christopher most is he convinced his own father to give Taylor $75,000. He says neither of them got more than a fraction back.
It cost me a big lesson, but I'm not going to get it back, and smashing his face really isn't going to help me.
The Dorios told us they're also turning the other cheek.
It's not the easiest thing to do, but we live by what the Word of God says, and we have to forgive Ephren, and we have come to a place where we've forgiven him.
In May 2012, we heard from an attorney representing Taylor who said Taylor is not in hiding, but has stayed out of the spotlight because of concerns for his safety. And he said Taylor unequivocally denies that he looted investor proceeds to fund an extravagant lifestyle. And then last week, 15 months after we first reported this story, the Lookout team got a tip. Someone had located Ephren Taylor and his wife.